Chairman Peterson led a CODEL to Europe. We talked with other countries about this very question. Regulatory arbitrage country to country, it's been a challenge for us. I have no real confidence that you're going to be able to line up all of the countries, that some country won't decide to not adopt the strict requirements that we think are advisable in order to have a competitive advantage, in order to have that country become a financial center. Hence things like the Cayman Islands, et cetera, prop up. And I think it just denies history to suggest that there won't be countries like that. Has any thought been given to the United States perhaps teaming up with Europe and coming up with a fundamental regulatory scheme, the sort of minimum standards that are acceptable, and then simply announce that investors will not be permitted in any way, directly or indirectly, we're going to look at substance, not the form, to be in our markets if they are elsewhere playing in markets that are not living up to this minimum regulatory standard? Because it just seems to me unrealistic to think that we're going to be able to do much more than that. So if there's been thought given to it, could you share that with us?
I'm not sure we can go quite that far, but I think our basic approach is very similar to what you laid out. And there is a elaborate cooperative framework now in place that has the United States at the table with not just Europe, but the other major financial centers to design minimum standards, make sure they're more evenly enforced. I'm not sure we can go quite as far as you suggested, but the basic philosophy you laid out is something we're very much
Secretary, is it your impression that all of these countries are going to agree with the different things that you are suggesting we should require?
I completely agree with you that it's going to be enormously difficult, but it's the right thing to try to attempt. But again, many of these countries have been scarred by...
Mr. Secretary, I'm sorry, but if we move forward and require these things, are we going to be disadvantaged?
Well, I think that if we get the balance wrong and do it poorly, we will face that risk. But we're going to try to be careful to do it in a way that improves confidence in our markets, in a way that reinforces what has been a substantial asset for this country, which is a financial system which were typically had stronger standards than those were applied around the world. But again, this crisis has been so searing for countries not just in Europe but across the world that I think there's going to be substantial interest in raising standards there too.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thanks, gentlemen. Gentleman from Massachusetts.
Yeah, Chairman Peterson and I have discussed this. It will be our intention to include in legislation strict instructions to all of the American financial regulators to apply the strictest possible sanctions to any outlying country like that. I would agree with the EU, with Japan, and we've had a lot of conversations, but I believe we should then say that any country that allows itself to be the host for that loses access to the American banking system, et cetera. And I believe we will have very strict instructions in there. That's at least a substantial protection. The gentleman is absolutely right.